I don't think Zordon would have approved by this, but could you imagine selling Ranger powers? I think it'd be kind of interesting. Let's talk about it. Ever since we found out that effectively you can make your own Power Ranger through Beast Morphers, I've always kind of thought, what happens if you have like a black market for Power Ranger power? You're having Ranger powers being sold to you for a large amount of money or short amount of money, depending what it is. Now, adding this into my script, you could literally sell Power Ranger or Ranger powers really cheap if it was like a 1 hour morph or something, or for a larger sum for a longer period of power. Originally, I thought that no one could access the Morphing Grid, that the Morphing Masters pretty much, or the Morphing Grid, gave you powers if you're chosen, and thus therefore you do the series. But with seeing like Nate at 10 making Ranger powers, figuring out how to get into the Morphing Grid, made me kind of think, well, what happens if you have people in general that could actually be as smart as Nate or as smart as Cam, actually make their own powers or figure out how to tap into the Morphing Grid? It can happen. I'm guaranteed it would happen. Now, originally I did think that if this did start happening, could the Morphing Masters step in and be like, right, we're gonna stop you. We are not gonna let you do this. So what would happen if they stepped in? Yeah, they could strip the powers and make sure that would never happen again. But for this one, let's talk about that they don't step in at all. Now, I did think that the Morphing Masters were going to step in. I generally thought that they would have, because Morphex was basically morphing energy, but yet the monsters had it, and as well as like the bad guys were able to use it to power things or to basically create monsters or whatever it was doing. So why didn't the Morphing Masters step in? So maybe they won't, because Power Ranger powers, the Ranger powers are being sold. Now, with thinking about it, I reckon that there will be a few people that would use it, a few different types of people. Mainly, first of all, the government, because they would want this sort of power for themselves, where they could create their own Rangers and send them off into battle to kind of do more, rather than the generic, let's go like beat monsters, save the city. I think that you'd get government officials to kind of use that power. And kind of, if I haven't written this in my script, we've kind of seen a little bit of that when it came to the Zeo kind of crossover special type thing, the prelude going into it. I've covered it on the channel. It's actually really, really interesting, where you have this old man going to a telescope, and going to a facility that has a giant telescope and is able to see the Machine Empire, and they kind of do it, and we see Bulk and Skull in it as well. So I generally kind of think that that would be a thing, that you'd have a government official having their own kind of secret squad of Power Rangers going in and doing the kind of shady stuff that we've seen pretty much in most films. I kind of like that idea, I really kind of do, because I think that even if they bought one morpher or a couple of morphers, they would start to kind of reverse engineer it, because they would want more. You know, who wouldn't want their own Zord to kind of destroy your enemies with, or use powers to get superhuman strength, speed, or whatever, or maybe you get actual power to actually kind of make you go, oh cool, let's transform and have a unique ability. I generally think there's so much stuff that the government could do to reverse engineer this, to gain powers, to do whatever they want with it. The next one I would think of is thugs, the crime lords, the mob bosses, the crime syndicate that would use this power to their advantage. You know, maybe you're walking down the street and thus therefore you see a group of Rangers there to kind of take your money or to do whatever, or basically just commit a lot of different crimes, like we see in a lot of stuff, like I'm going to use the Flash, where we see like other people having meta powers, going in, stealing stuff, either robbing banks. And I feel like you could have a whole massive whole massive crime syndicate to actually do what you want. And I feel like that would be the main thing. And obviously you would then see more people fighting Rangers. You know, maybe people wouldn't trust the Rangers. Maybe they'd be like, oh my god, the Power Rangers are actually destroying the city, or they're robbing banks, or they're hurting people. What is there to do? Think of the children!
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children? No, stop. Think of the children.
I imagine, like, if you're gonna have a mob boss, it would be the guy from Lupin versus Lupin Ranger versus Pata Ranger. He would be the ultimate mob boss, which I think would be absolutely fine. So yeah, I kind of think that that would be a thing. So you would have a crime syndicate, mob bosses, and all that using that power to their advantage. It's just really weird. Morph, see, get out there and bring me my money, see. If you don't do it and defeat that Tommy Oliver and Jason Lee Scott, you're gonna be sleeping with the fishes, capiche? That's what I imagine that they would sound like. Mob bosses, that is. I think the next thing would be everyday use. People who just want to be Power Rangers, just to have the costumes, the power, the Zords, not to do anything, but just generally everyday stuff. Could you imagine just walking into a shop and going, hey, I would like this, and maybe at times, like at the very beginning, like most prototypes and most products, you only get one choice, but then you're able to mix and match. Hey, I want to be this ranger, and I want to have this sort of Zord, and it gets all made and put into a morpher, and you can have it. And effectively, it'd be kind of cool for everyday use or parties or cosplaying or something, just literally going, it's morphing time, or saying what you want, hitting that morpher and transforming. And I think you'd get so much stuff. Like most everyday use you would have would be people wanting photos or wanting cool things or traveling. But then can you imagine having a license? I think you'd have to have a morphing license to be able to do something. I think that would be pretty cool. I like the thought of just creating your own Ranger design in like a couple of hours. It's made, you have your morpher, you pop it in, and there, I think that is a pretty cool thing to do. But yeah, I thought it would be a very interesting kind of topic to like people selling Power Ranger powers or Ranger powers. I think it'd be kind of awesome. I think it'd be all around the world. I think majority of people would have this. And we've seen that anyone can be a ranger. So yeah, I think this would be awesome. If you could have your own power, which one would you run with? Would you be for the government, for crime, or would you just use it for your personal stuff? And yeah, how much do you think it would be? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you later.
チャンネルをサポートしてくれてありがとうございます。チャンネル登録、高評価お願いします。以下のリンクから商品を入手することができます。